All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing on with our videos for this week. Delta Math, Grading Period 3, Assignment 2, Percents 2. Remember that is in Delta Math. And we are looking for Assignment 2, Percents 2. Remember, you're going to have to scroll down some to get to it, but it's right here. We're going to go over how to do some of these problems here, so that you are well prepared and you can handle this on your own. Notice that there's a couple of videos here. You do need to watch those on your own because you may get something out of how they explained it to you, but I'm going to explain it to you in this video, and hopefully you will be able to work these problems from there. All right, proportional reasoning, percents level 1. We're going to take a look at this, at the way they have this set up. All right, it says Lucy has a collection of 160 coins. How many coins represent 20% of her collection? Well, her whole collection is 160. So 160 coins represent 100% of her collection. All right, so we want to know how many coins are in 20%. Okay, so we're going to divide or scale down to solve for the missing percent. Well, if we're going to go down to 20 from 100, what would we divide by? 100 divided by what gives you 20? Well, let's make sure that we do this correctly. All right, so 100 divided by, well, we don't know what we need to divide by, so let's divide it by 20. So 100 divided by 20 equals 5. All right, so we're going to do the same thing to the top. We're going to say, let's clear this out because we're going to end up having to divide by 5 because divided by 5 gave us 20. So 160 divided by 5 is what we need to do next. We're going to say 160 divided by 5 equals 32. So 32 coins represent 20% of her collection. Let's see if they like our answer. And there we go. Now you can take a look at how they show you on here, or we can do another example. Let's do another example. Aiden has a coin collection. He keeps 7 of the coins in his box, which is 20% of the collection. So 7 coins right here make up 20% of his collection. How many total coins does he have? Well, we're using our ratios like we used before. 20% to get to 100%. 20 times what gives you 100? Well, we found out before that 100 divided by 20 is 5. So 20 times 5 is 100. We'll show you that right here. All right, so that you can remember that we did this on here. So we said we had 100 divided by 20, so we had 5, okay? So 20 times 5, we got 5 times 20. Ooh, that's not what we meant to put in there. 5 times 20 gave us the 100. So we've got 20 here, so 5. We're going to multiply by 5. 20 times 5 gave us 100. 7 times 5 gives us, and we're not even going to put that on a calculator because you guys know that 7 times 5 is 35. So he has 35 total coins. So 7 of them make up 20% of his collection. And there we go. So that is how the problems work on the first part. You're going to have to find out what we multiplied by. If you've got 100% and 10%, what did you have to multiply that by to get 100? Well, 10 times what gives you 100? 10 times 10. So you do the same thing to the 79. 79 times 10 would be, well, 79 times 10, since it's times 10, we just add a 0 to it, 790. You can also use your calculator or write it on paper if you choose to do so. All right, that was level 1. Now let's take a look at level 2. It says, at a football stadium, 10% of the fans in attendance were teenagers. So there's a whole bunch of people there, but 10% are teenagers. If there were 100 teenagers in the football stadium, what was the total number of people at the stadium? Well, we don't know what the total number is here, but we do know that 10% of them was made up by 100 teenagers. 10% were teenagers, and there were 100 teenagers. So we've got 10%, and we want to know what we would multiply by to get 100. Well, 10 times 10 is 100. Now we have 100 attendees right here that were teenagers, but we need to also multiply that times 10. So 100 times 10, I'll show you on here so that you believe me. 100 times 10 equals 1,000. All right, and let's put in our answer and see what it says. It likes that answer. All right, let's do one more of these. At a football stadium. Okay, this is not the same it's the same problem, different numbers. All right, so this time 10% of the fans were teenagers, and there were 30 teenagers. So there were just 30 of them this time. So what was the total number of people? Well, remember, 10 times 10 gave us 100. So 30 times 10, and remember, anytime you multiply by 10, you add a 0 to the end of it. So we had 30, and we add a 0. All right, let's see if they give us something different this time. Okay, this is a different one. All right, we're going to do this problem together. London has a collection of 260 coins. That means if 100% of her collection is the 260 coins. How many coins represent 25% of her collection? Okay, well, what will we need to multiply 25 by to get 100? If you're not sure, you can say 100 divided by 25, or you can even say $1 divided by quarters. All right, well, there's 4 quarters in $1, so 25 times 4 gives us 100. So if we're going backwards, we're going smaller, so we're dividing. 100 divided by 4 gave us 25. So now we need to take that 260, and we will also divide it by 4. 260 divided by 4. And that will tell us how many coins make up 25% of his collection. So let's try that answer. So far, so good. We are rocking right along. All right, so that was level 2. Now we're going to look at level 3. The 9 students in the environmental club represent 4% of the students in the 7th grade. Now, we can do this with a chart like they did before, or we can do this a little bit like we did some of those finding, or like you're going to see later on, finding percents of a number. So I want to show you something just a little bit different this time. I'm going to take a snip of this so that we have the question. Actually, we just need this part right here. And, oops, nope, didn't mean to do that. All right, so let's save that. I'm going to save that as level 3. All right, and we want to go now to our document right here. I'm going to insert that picture. Level 3, here we go. There's our question. All right, now, it says the 9 students in the environmental club represent 4% of the students in the 7th grade. So we could say that 4% of the 7th grade students is 9, because it says the 9 students represent 4%, okay? Now, remember when we talked about how to solve these kinds of problems? Of always means times, and is always means equals. So we could do this 4% times, and we're just going to use the number n for 7th grade students, equals 9. Now, remember when we're working with percent, we have to change it to a decimal. So we need to move that 2 places to the left. Here's 1. Well, there's not another one. So what do? Well, that's where we put our 0 for a placeholder. So we would have 0.04 times however many total 7th grade students there are, equals 9. All right, let's write this like an expression that you've seen before. 0.04 times n equals 9. Now, if you're multiplying by something, the opposite is division, so you have to divide by it. So we have 0.04 n divided by 0.04, and that equals to 9 divided by 0.04. Now, this 0.04 and this 0.04 goes away, so all you have left over there is n, and that is the number of 7th grade students. And that's equal to, well, let's get our calculator. Remember that when you're dividing by decimals, you do it slightly differently. So I would check yourself with the calculator. 9 divided by 0.04 equals 225. So that equals the number of students, the total number of 7th grade students. All right. So if you'll notice, what you did on this one is you divided 9, what your percentage was, by your decimal. So let's go put that answer in. It was 225. Let's go here, 225, submit our answer. And there we go. We're going to do one more like this. She has a coin collection. She keeps 2 of the coins in her box, which is 10% of the collection. So if we go back and look at the other one, let's just do it like this. And let's call up our document so that we can see it. All right. So what happened up here was we had our percentage and we divided it by the number that we had that represented that percentage. All right. So what we essentially ended up doing was taking the number that represented that percentage, which was 2 on this one, and dividing it by our percentage. So let's see if that holds on this one. If we don't need to write all this down, and we can just say 2 divided by 10%. Let's see what that looks like over here. Let's do it over here and just kind of show you how that works. So we could say 2 divided by 10%. Now, what do we need to do to that percent? We cannot divide it like that. We have to say 2 divided by, remember, we take our decimal, we move it 2 places to the left, 2 divided by 0.10. All right, so let's see how that works out on our calculator. 2 divided by 0.10, and that equals 20. So there are 20 total coins in her collection. Let's put 20 right here and submit that answer and say yes. And there you go. All right. So you guys will be working these problems just like that. Make sure that you are writing down numbers so that you can see what they look like. You can make charts if you want to, just like we did on the others. Okay, percent of a whole. Here we go. 86% of 300. These are the things that you've already seen. That's 86 or 0.86 times 300. So all you're going to do is do your multiplication there. I'm going to clear this. 86. It's not 86, is it? Let's clear it. 0.86. 86% times 300. 258. These are just kind of a really quick review. It should not be very difficult for you. Again, 35% of 140, okay? Well, what are we going to multiply by? You can't use 35, but you can move your decimal 2 places to the left and say 0.35. So those are just a few problems like that. Let's look at this one right here. 30% of 3. This one could be a little bit tricky. And notice that right here they say round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. Well, 30%. You have to move your decimal 2 places to the left. So 1, 2. All right. So that's going to be 0.30 times 3. And it says to round to the nearest hundredth if necessary, but we don't even really have to round it to the hundredth because it's already in tenths. So I would put 0.9. If they don't like that, we'll go back and put the 0.90. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 0.9. Make sure that if it is a full decimal and there's no holes, no whole numbers, that you put the 0 there. Let's look at one more. What is 112% of 1? Round to the nearest 100th. Okay, well, this is one of those tricky ones. Now, if you still move your decimal 2 places to the left. This is more than 100%, but it works the same way. 1, 2. So you're going to have 1.12, 1.12, and then of 1. So it's going to be times 1. All right. The hundredths, here's tenths, here's hundredths. You don't have to round it. It's already done. So we're going to say 1.12. All right. Now, these problems work like that on this section. It's the percent of a whole, level 2. The last part is percent of a whole word problems. Now, I'm going to go over one example here. And after that, I'm going to leave you to work these because I need you to be able to reason this out and put your thoughts down on paper and be able to work these problems on your own. They work the same way as the things that we've been doing, but I will give you one example right here. First of all, it says a middle school took all of its 6th grade students on a field trip. All right, so 6th grade students. The theater had 2,500 seats. The students filled up 66% of the seats in the theater. So 66% of those 2,500 seats were filled with 6th graders. And we want to know how many 6th graders there were. Well, let's see. 66% of 2,500 tells us how many seats they filled up. And if all the 6th graders went, that's the number we need to know to find out how many 6th graders there were. So we need to know what 66% of 2,500 is, right? And that will tell us 66% of 2,500 is how many 6th graders there were. We're on the field trip because that's what they filled up. All right, so 66% of 2,500. Well, that's the same as 66% times 2,500. Remember that we have to change it to a decimal, 0.66 times 2,500. And let's multiply that out and see how many sixth graders there were. 0.66 times 2,500. So that equals 1,650. So our calculator again, see our number 1,650. So there were 1,650 sixth graders that went on that trip. Now I'm going to tell you that you're going to have to read the problems. You're going to have to write down numbers. You're going to have to make your sentences, and then you can figure out your answer to the questions. This wants to know what percentage of the seats were filled with sixth graders. So you're going to do this one differently, but the 5 problems on this section, word problems, I'm going to expect you to really work on those on your own. I'm not going to give you too many examples, except to tell you you've got to read the problem. We're going to use this part as kind of the quiz part. So I want you to attempt these problems and do them as well as you can. All right, again, that was the Delta Math, Grading Period 3, Assignment 2, Percents 2. And I'm going to post the video there for this one as well.